All right, welcome to episode 85 of the Zenspath 4-Button Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers, and joining me once again without a face, because we don't really know who we're talking to, but we're just going to run with it, Chris.
Hello.
And also joining us, but actually willing to show his face and prove he's a real person, Steven.
I'm a real boy.
So we can't really tell if it's like two humans and a Google AI doing a podcast or if it's just, whatever. Chris, we can't really believe if you're real or not. You could just be a chatbot or something.
Crap. Okay, I have to go. Clearly the algorithm has failed me.
Hold on, I'll reset his server and we'll be off.
Why did I just get a text saying my Google account's been deleted?
And
oh,
done.
Man.
Check that off the list.
Dang. That would really hurt. So let's jump in and see what the AI has been up to. Chris, what have you been playing?
Well, I finished Octopath Traveler. Everything except what I found out was an optional final super boss.
Oh.
So I thought that there was just a regular boss at the end of the game, but it turned out to be the super evil death god of final bosses. And somebody who recommended the game to me said, "Oh, I beat that guy, but it was really tough." It turns out that you're not supposed to do that. But either way.
Was he as hard as Ruby or Emerald?
Worse. Apparently worse. This guy that recommended it to me has been playing JRPGs all of their life, and they said that was the toughest super boss they've ever played.
Wow.
So there you go. I've also been playing Wind Waker HD, which I still hope will be on. It really is. I want it to be on Switch. I want more Zeldas to be on Switch.
I want it on Switch, but I do really appreciate how it handles on the Wii U, because that gamepad does get really good use on there.
It's very clever. It's a shame that we don't have more options like that.
Yeah.
Imagine if you could, if there was a wire, like from the TV to the Switch, and you could just Wii U the thing. But who knows?
Yeah, they should like do something like, I don't know, release Dolphin on Steam or something. That would be a good idea.
Oh boy, here we go. Aside from that, I've also been playing a roguelite called Have a Nice Death. And it is much more difficult than Hades. So
really,
it is giving me some real trouble, but it's very well animated and has this wonderful, grim, bureaucratic sense of humor, which is so very French. So
I think I've heard of this one, but it's good to hear that it's good.
It's good, but it's very tough. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
Okay, Steven, what you been up to?
Well, I just finished sabbatical I was on, where I got to kind of delve into games as well, but it allowed me to finish at least the first playthrough of Resident Evil 2 Remastered.
Another really good game.
See how everything changed around. I had been watching some YouTubers play the randomizers of the original Resident Evil 2 and the remake, and I was just like, man, I really want to play this. So I got into that. So I'm currently on the Claire playthrough, getting through that. Loving what I'm going through so far. I like the little changes they made.
I still absolutely love that copy find when you lift his head up and just it comes apart like sliced beef. I was just like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Or when you die, it doesn't just go to black. It's like, we're gonna show your throat getting ripped out. I'm like,
blood spraying everywhere.
Like that.
Remember, this is for kids.
But I loved seeing how they had some extra modes, so you can kind of see what some of the other still living characters are going through. So that was very neat. And then other than that, I heard that it just got added to Game Pass, but I tried a game called Infinity Guitars, and it looked like an amalgam of Hi-Fi Rush and Theatrhythm, and it turned out it did neither of those things very good. So it's kind of it basically shows itself off as it is definitely an indie game, so don't expect the world. But
Well, that's kind of disappointing, especially when as soon as you mentioned Hi-Fi Rush, I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, it failed." That okay,
because you
never
have
mind.
to like attack with the rhythm and such. So I was like, okay, this is fine. You get to play music as your way of attack, and I was like, this is great. But the music became very monotonous. Like it didn't want to switch it up or change it.
Mm,
I don't know if I have to finish the entire what they call world or planet
right.
before I get new music, but I don't know if I can get that far or if I want to.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you two, both of you, owe me an apology. Because you started an addiction I did not need, yet I can't stop playing. I got Power Wash Simulator, and then I put it on the Steam Deck. That was my other mistake. Then I found out I could do motion controls on the Steam Deck, and that's about all I've been playing. Like it took Resident Evil 4 coming out for me to even just lighten up a bit.
I'm just imagining that, and it's like playing the Wii U or something.
It is. I'm just sitting there, just this is great. Like, that game is so freaking addictive because I started going through all the Final Fantasy
if
7 stuff.
If you play with friends too, you find yourself just like it's like being at like a cafe or a diner. You just find yourself like just chatting while you're cleaning a skate park.
I want to do that sometime, like where the three of us could play together and we could just talk or stream it or something while we're doing it. It'd be like a little fun extra thing. But I have both of you to blame for this, and thank you. It's just it's so fun.
It's very zen,
which is ironic for that. But what I love, there's one thing I don't like, which kind of sucks. I absolutely love the time lapse at the end, but I hate the fact there's no way to save it or export that. I would love to have those little clips just to throw up there. Because I find myself, while I'm cleaning like bigger areas, doing it in different patterns on purpose to make the time lapse look funny.
That's clever.
Yeah, I watched when they did the Awesome Games Done Quick earlier this year. They had a 6-player speed run of it, and it was fantastic to watch 6 players go ham on these levels. And it was still relaxing.
I believe it. It's just, oh man, I've been doing all the Final Fantasy 7 stuff. Like, you start off washing like the bike and the car. Then it goes on to one of the Scorpion tank boss. Then you go on and clean the bar that they have. Then it sends you off to another robot boss. And I just keep going through and just going like, this is ridiculous. But
yeah, because you're like, how'd you get dirt up there?
Like, what did y'all do in here?
It was it was a little
crime or something.
The one thing that gets me about that game is when you're at 99% and you just have no idea where that one last stupid speck of schmutz is, and it's just in some invisible crevice, and you'll never be able to leave until you find it.
The Midgar processing center model.
Oh, God.
Oh, that took it finally came down to the last one, and I had to just keep going in a circle, just spraying into like the little crevice area to see if I could finally hit it. Yeah, you
find yourself just spraying like you can't control it, and you're like, where is there a sliver of progress to be made?
Right, give me an arrow, something. But yeah, I'm going to keep playing that one. That's definitely up there for it's super chill. Like, I just will chill out before bed and play it. I had to quit bringing my Steam Deck to work because I'd be like, oh, take a break and keep playing Steam Deck.
Sorry, I'm not back yet. I still have to clean this room.
Right. I'm not done yet, guys. Leave me alone. The other fantastic game I've been playing this week is Resident Evil 4 Remastered, which came out. And I have to say, so far, I've been really happy with how that plays. I was a little worried because I've played a lot of Resident Evil 4. I love the Resident Evil series, especially 2. And Remastered, I'm liking the controls of it. There were some complaints. The Xbox version, there's a little bit more of a dead zone to the stick for some reason. Which
I heard the PS4 version was having like
PS4's got all kinds
blinding
of
or flashing lights.
Ew.
That you needed to turn off a certain graphical effect and you were fine.
That's strange.
Yeah, I don't know why they should have just kept this off the PS4, just made it PS5, Series X, and PC. To be honest with you, because they already
Same
dropped
thing happened
Xbox
with,
One on it. So
yeah, same thing happened with Cyberpunk. That should never have come out on PS4.
yeah, they should have just waited. That should have been a PS4. I know they weren't trying to do it, but at least PS4 Pro and Xbox One X, I think, should have been the minimum because those were playable.
Makes you wonder what the Street Fighter Street Fighter 6 PS4 version is going to look like.
Oh, I forgot that's coming out. Yeah, I forgot they're doing that. They keep pushing because remember they claimed they were going to be the first ones to. We know generations, like we're going to only put out on here, and they were like, "Oh, our sales are that bad. We're going to keep making PS4 games. Just keep doing.
Nobody owns a PS5.
I've got one and I don't play it that much, but whatever." And lastly, what I wanted to cover also is I got to be a guest on another podcast over at the Records and Bands podcast, talking about he has a series of 10 questions that he asks each of the guests. And then he has us, pick one song at the end of it that goes on a playlist he's making for the season. And this was with Rob Jones as the host. Great show. I highly recommend you guys should give it a try. He's actually invited me to come back to cover a particular album that's one of my favorites. I won't say exactly what that is yet because I don't want to just make announcements on his stuff without asking first. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. So it's been eventful.
Nice.
Yeah, and started guesting on a few other shows. It's been kind of fun.
As a quick addition to that Resident Evil 4 remastered,
yes,
I love the fact that veterans of the series are telling new rookie players that there is a bonus if you shoot the fish in the lake.
Oh yeah, it's a bonus cutscene, all right. Good luck with that.
Somebody spoil it, but it's amazing.
Yeah, somebody has already modified. I guess they used an adapter for the PS4 version where they can use the PS2 chainsaw controller for trying to play it.
Nice.
I wouldn't mind doing that, but I have the GameCube and the PS2 ones, but I don't know. I'll have to see if I can ever get that to work.
Speaking of chainsawing profits.
Yeah, let's jump into the news because we have got a lot this show. Good Lord, it's been a busy past few days. There wasn't much for a little bit, and it was just shotgun everything coming through. But as you said, someone else who took basically a shotgun to the profits of it. Elon Musk impresses by dropping the value of Twitter from $44 billion with a B that he paid for to less than $20 billion in only a few months. Since last October, when the deal went through, I honestly think he would have lost less money if he just bought the company, walked in, set the building on fire, and then just did insurance. I think he would have ended up losing less money that way. How do you mess that up? Twitter was doing so well. You guys have any thoughts?
All it took was him being there. That's it.
Yeah. So to make things worse, because, when you're 20 billion in the hole, you want to make dumb decisions. He also announced that the original verified accounts that are out there, all of them are going to be losing their check marks. And now you have to pay for it. Yeah, even the ones that were already verified. But this is accounting for government accounts, businesses, individuals, celebrities, scientists, everybody, politicians. So even for companies, and I did Amazon as an example, they have to pay $1,000 a month just for their main account. And then every account under that umbrella has to be $50 a month. So as a quick note, I looked just for Amazon. They have 9 sub-accounts. That doesn't count any of their actual executives or other people that need to be verified, their support people, all that stuff. And they're already paying almost $1,600 a month just off the bat for that. And then, God forbid they pay through Apple or Android and they have to pay even more. That stupid fee. So this is going to cause so many problems for smaller businesses that can't afford this, because people are going to be able to just make fake accounts and trick people and just do whatever they want. And I am just, it's going to be a bad explosion of this, but I'm almost waiting to see how this bites him in the ass. I think you guys had heard some more about this, so I'll let y'all. What are y'all's thoughts on this one?
So, first off, learning today of all days, prior to what tomorrow is going to be, learning that the White House said they will not be ponying up for any blue check mark is basically, I think, kind of, at least on the government side of things, the top of the chain of if they're not getting it, who's ponying up for the per month, the $7, the $1,000, depending on what kind of account you are. But to have all this be active on April 1st, April Fool's Day, is also asking for it, because then people are going to think this is a joke as well. And he's going to be like, no.
Oh, it's a joke. As soon as he bought Twitter, it was a joke.
And he
Just a
tried
bad
to
one.
tell these other larger groups, he's just like, it's just going to make everybody honest in the end. And I was just like, no, I don't see how, hurting artists and hurting people who, like, especially when they're talking to their customers, never mind the bigger companies, but being I don't know if I'm speaking for Chris here, but like being an artist, if you can't verify that you're speaking to the artist when you're, say, I don't know, discussing a commission, what other venues are you going to use?
I've already had people basically copying my stuff in various areas, so that's why I've stayed off of Twitter for a while. They've actually used my name with one letter different, and I'm like, okay, I need to do something about this. Yeah, so you have to be very careful. And of course, there was that entire period also involving the Twitter checkmark where I think we even talked about it once, where people just masqueraded as other companies and drove stock down just, for the fun of it. So honestly, I think if Elon Musk is looking for people to be honest, he's already fired them.
He's doing it to get rid of bots, but he said he's also allowing verified bots to have check marks because they have to promise not to act human.
Lord.
So he's against AI. Good to know.
Oh no, he is. On a side note, him and a bunch of other top technology people, like even Steve Wozniak, like all these people coming together and saying, please put AI on hold until we can put safety measures into place. And I was just like, Elon, should you really be talking about that when when you can't handle Twitter?
I trust Wozniak more than Musk on this one.
When I heard that name, I was like, okay, I can take this a little bit more serious that they're concerned.
Right.
But if it was just him, I was just like, he probably thinks it's too expensive to buy. But
oh boy,
I mean, this whole Twitter situation's just getting worse and worse. I mean, I'm actually surprised it's still running at this point, if you could call it that, because there's been more and more issues have been popping up. Of course, you have the whole issue with the for you versus followed, where people I followed won't even show up. I have to go to for you and I see them over there. Happens a lot, and it's just the whole thing's imploding. But the other part of this, I think we mentioned it a little bit before, but the check marks, he's also making restrictions on what people can do with that. So like, you can't make or interact with a poll anymore unless you're a check mark. And someone pointed out, oh, okay, this just makes it where he'll make a poll again going, hey, am I doing a good job? Am I a good boy? Or, am I, should I quit? And only the blue check marks that are just basically all following him anyways will be like, oh, you're doing great. And he'll be like, see, the poll works because you cut out everyone that you don't want to listen to. He's being an aristocrat in regards to this. He's not.
Yeah,
his freedom is bullshit.
It's actually listed on the website that if you're not verified, that your tweets will be hidden on For You pages. If you're following, yeah, you'll still get your small businesses telling you what's going on. But if you're trying to gain more people, it's going to have to be word of mouth, because now they're being actually not blocked, but just not shown up on For You unless you have a check mark anymore.
And that's always an issue. Even like we have some people that listen to this show and be like, we'll put out a tweet about something or make a post about it, but like maybe it'll get a like. Sometimes they won't do that. Like most people won't retweet or send it. Like it's hard to get stuff out there. And if you're already being suppressed by the way the system's working, you're just kind of, it makes it really hard to get any traction, So this whole Twitter thing's a mess, and we're just going to watch as it burns.
Hive's having a good week.
Say what?
I said Hive Social's having a good week, at least.
I haven't gotten Hive to work correctly in a while. I wouldn't really call it a good week.
Oh, mine works. Mine works fine. It works just like Twitter, except people can have check marks for free.
Oh yeah, for me it's like, okay, Hive works, but no one talks, no one reads anything, and I can only look at it on a phone. Like they really need to fix a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, give it time. It's I think their team is smaller than this podcast right now in terms of the amount of people. So,
ouch.
I think there's less people working on the podcast. That's what I mean. Like there's like one or two guys and they have to do everything.
I don't know how to take that. Even Chris is over there. I can just hear his face now going, "Oh, damn."
I'm just saying, like, don't
Can't
expect
see
the
your
world
face,
from
but hear
them. They're just a couple guys.
I know. So, all right, let's move on to our next story here. And this one got me all excited again. Nintendo held a short Tears of the Kingdom, about 10-minute long mini direct on March 28th. And they showed off a new special edition OLED system, which finally got my ass to get an OLED. I actually ended up pre-ordering 2 of them. We're trying to decide if we're just going to find someone that was wanting to get it and just sell it to him for cost. I'm not going to make a bunch of money off it or anything.
Yeah, I used to do that with new systems.
Or I thought about, someone joked I should start a Patreon and have that as a giveaway. And I was like, I got to actually have a Patreon to do that first. I've never had anyone actually give me money for this show. The entire time it's ever run, I've paid for everything. It's hilarious. But it could be kind of a fun way to do a giveaway. But if, by the time this comes out, no one's going to be able to talk to me on Twitter anyways, unless I pay for this stupid check mark, which I don't want to do. Oh, that's the other thing I meant to add. They're letting you hide the check mark so people paying won't get bullied anymore.
Hey, win-win.
Right.
I paid. I just don't know it's a glitch.
Yeah. What's going on?
I'm verified.
But did you guys see the Zelda Edition OLED?
I did. I did see that.
What'd you think of the design?
I loved the design of the OLED. I even liked the design of the system case that was also shown. And I'm kind of getting tired of Nintendo's versions of Pro Controllers where they dip one end of it into paint. I don't know why I can't just have like my Monster Hunter one has a nice design right in the center.
I didn't get the silver one. I got the gold one. I wanted the silver, but I missed it.
But then to have it just one leg dipped in white paint, I was just like, I know you're trying to emulate his arm, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you think it'd be like green then, make it like glowing
That's not
green.
a good color for Pro Controllers. I don't know.
It worked on the Splatoon one.
But yeah, I'm all for that. Coincidentally, I did order the collector's edition of the game from Amazon Japan because it comes with a Zelda embossed spoon and fork.
I still can't believe A, that's an actual story, and B, you actually got it. That's great. I have to see that when you get it.
Yep.
Is that the only difference between the collector's edition in the US and the one in Japan?
No,
well, apparently also that one's available.
Oh.
Well, now it's not. It's gone.
Oh, okay. So it's just like the American one now.
Now it's just like the American one. And Christian, it is different. It's got a fork, not a fork, spoon. It doesn't
Japanese
have an
language.
SRP rating because it's in Japan. See, it's different.
0
So
rating.
that's it. Amazing.
Legendary, you'd say. I couldn't resist. But they showed off some of the basic new gameplay mechanics, which just really got me intrigued. Like we knew that the main basis of the map is the same Hyrule, which I'm fine with. People complain about that all the time, and I'm like, well, how many movies have you watched that take place in New York? It's the same area, but it's a whole different story. They don't have to make a new New York every single time, unless you're Futurama. Then you do have a new New York, and that's a whole different thing.
They're probably just going to do away with the shrines and make actual dungeons. It's the same map layout,
right?
but now there's probably going to be new things to find.
Yeah,
it's basically using the same land just built over.
Which is smart, I think. The shrines themselves, people have done comparison videos looking at it. The shrines are gone. But they were looking at it. So we have 4 main abilities they show. The first one is recall, which lets you take an item, like they showed a rock or something falling from the sky that happens on occasion. They hopped on top of it, hit it with recall, and it starts rewinding time and falling back up. And you can use that like an elevator to get up or move around places, which I'm curious if you can ever use that on actual enemies or certain things to, maybe there's a boss fight where they throw something at you, you hit it with recall and have it thrown back at them or something.
There's a lot of potential with it. Also, on that note, mentioning the islands in the sky, people are complaining about the same map. You have all of the sky now, so
right?
There's plenty more.
Verticality, people, verticality.
Hearing all the different abilities though just makes me think. I think they were watching people speedrunning it and seeing all the silly stuff people did, and they're like, I think we have something here.
I'm actually okay with that. If that's honestly part of what they did, I think that's great, because they're like, hey, this is what people like to do. They were very creative. Let's add this in so everybody gets to enjoy it and make it more of a fun function to it.
And then someone will speed run Tears of the Kingdom, and then Nintendo will cry.
Oh, I can't wait to see what insanity people come up with in this game. The next ability is Fuse. This one lets you take different items and objects around the world and combine them into different items and weapons. So they showed they picked up a branch and they hit an enemy a couple times and it broke. Picked up another branch and finished it off and about broke it. But then they picked up a branch and then fused it with a boulder they found, and it made like a makeshift hammer that lasted way longer. So weapon degradation's still there, but now you can scale it based on the durability or what you make your weapons out of or how you find them. So I'm okay with that. Like, if you pick up a stick, I expect it to break when you hit a metal machine. If it doesn't, that's kind of more bending the rules, I think, than anything. Unless it's in your grandma's hand, that stick should not hurt that bad.
I just really wish that you'd be able to make something unbreakable, that everything's still breakable, even the Master Sword.
That's just going to stay. That's part of the game's mechanics. Although I would love to see what you can fuse to the Master Sword.
I saw somebody did a picture that showed Zelda holding the Master Sword with Link stuck to it. And I was like, there you go. This is great.
I saw the other way around, where Link was holding the Master Sword with Zelda fused to it.
Oh, really? So. We're gonna have to both find these and send them to each other, because I didn't see the other one.
I appreciated the meme that is now on Know Your Meme website.
That was fast.
It says, thinking quickly, Link constructs a homemade megaphone using only fuse, a keysi, and a megaphone.
Yes, a Dave the Barbarian reference.
Oh, it's fantastic. But I like the fact that enemies have this ability as well for certain things, where they showed one that had look like a door on a tree or something. And they had it made a giant fan. They swung it and blew Link off the island. And that's when they showed that you can drop off an island, see the whole map. It's still a really big area. Lots of stuff. I'm sure I could go back and just dig through that little spot and find a bunch of things. But they fell all the way down and landed in a river. They could have glided, but Aonuma just wanted to go and hit the water, which technically by physics should have killed him totally dead.
Yeah, well, every time you open the paraglider when you're falling, your arms should rip off. Sadly, we're never going to see that.
Yeah, we're not going to get that much of a physics engine.
I was blown away by a fan down by the river.
Next up is the Ultra Hand. This is kind of like the bigger brother version of Fuse, but you can take like tree logs and motors and like fans they find and all that and make vehicles, or as they've called it, the Legend of Nuts and Bolts. And, they showed him make a raft, gave it a little, put a couple little fan motors on it, and you can hit those, and apparently they'll hold a charge, like a battery icon pops up, and they'll recharge whenever you hit them again to turn them off so you can do it. That's where they were making like vehicles and flying machines and balloons and all kinds of stuff with. And it's also a coy little joke at a old 1960s Nintendo toy. I'm sure you guys are aware of the Ultra Hand, the extending hand toy they made.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
They
think
reference that in WarioWare all the time.
I was about to say that.
I think it was a WiiWare game too.
Mm-hmm. Which is hilarious.
I do have a theory about all these things.
Ooh, go for it. I want to hear it.
I think that there's going to be some restrictions if there are going to be dungeons in the game.
Uh-huh.
They're probably going to stop Link's hand from doing all this cool stuff, so you actually still have to think of puzzles.
Are you sure? Because Breath of the Wild let you skip a lot of puzzles.
But
if you were physically insane.
Well, yeah, but there were still things that you could or could not do.
Mm-hmm.
So there are like all the stuff that they're allowing you to do. It feels like either one thing, like they'll either restrict it or you're going to have to figure out some very specific thing in order to get through the dungeon. So it's either going to be very stupid or very smart, like nowhere in between.
I'm expecting if there is shrines / dungeons that there'll be some kind of magnet inside that pulls apart your creation so you can't walk through it with it.
I'm sure they'll find some way to balance it, but I think they want to keep some of the open ideas in there because, they'll have the preferred way through. And then even with Breath of the Wild, which I need to break that up and play it tonight. I miss playing it. It's been long enough. They reveled in letting you have that freedom to try and do different things. They wanted you to play with those mechanics. But I agree, Chris, they're probably going to have something that limits it. Either, some kind of power gauge or, there's a material inside this dungeon that stops, this power from working or that power, So,
interesting to see because they've offered so much. And we don't know whether you're going to get all these powers right at the start of the game either.
Yeah, no, I don't know if they're going to do this like they did with Breath of the Wild, where you had to get all of your stuff together before you got off the Great Plateau, which I have to look and see if the Great Plateau is still there or did that float off, I haven't seen it in any of the trailers. So, the last ability we had is called Ascend, and this one they hinted at, but it kind of blew my mind how it works. So basically they show him walking into a small building. You look up at the ceiling and then he just jumps and phases through it and pops out the top.
It's wall clipping.
Basically, but then they used it where you could go into a cave at the bottom of a mountain. And they did it. And it shows him swimming through the matter and popping out at the top. So now you can have these, if you find caves at the bottom, they have more of a purpose because you don't know what you might pop out and find above. And I can tell you right now, we're going to find hearts that way. You're going to have to jump at a certain point in a cave to pop out in another cave or something. And they did mention, like, if you're in a cage, you could use that to get out of the cage. So I have a feeling that one's going to be, at least one dungeon's going to get crazy with all the stuff you're going to have to jump through. And I think it's only vertical. I don't think you can go back down. They never showed that. And plus it's called Ascend, not Descend. Let's be honest here. So what do you guys think on that one?
You can go 5 floors up, then realize you forgot your item. And then you have to walk all the way down the stairs.
Yeah, I think I have to kind of see it more in action when the game comes out. Because right now it just sounds like a weird way of wall clipping to me.
I'm calling it right now. There's going to be at least one puzzle where you're going to have to rotate multiple levels of a room to make one pillar going up so you could do the jump to get through it to the top to get to the exit. Calling it now.
Honestly, the only puzzles that I did not like in Breath of the Wild were the motion control puzzles, the labyrinths. Those had potential, but I feel the gyro control and sensor were never going to be as good as the Wii and Wii U were.
On that note, though, I really adored, because I was one of those players that when they had that one shrine with the labyrinth to get the ball through, that I just flipped it over so it was flat on the other side, and I just rolled it to the other side. I loved that they allowed me to do that.
I messed around with that game.
Sometimes there might not be another way. But yes, continue.
I messed around with some of those on both the Switch and the Wii U, and you could tell it was kind of designed for the gamepad in mind, with that larger area moving it around.
Yeah, I think this game is going to benefit from being on one system now.
Yeah, and they showed some artwork of Zelda, not the leaked stuff. I haven't looked at any of that. This was officially released, because Link they haven't shown him have like a Sheikah tablet, but Zelda has something that looks like a Sheikah tablet, but you can tell it's now based on a Switch with how it's designed, because it almost looks like the ends are Joy-Cons, versus the older one, which kind of looked like a gamepad. Like, you can tell where they were going with it. So I kind of like when they do that, where they redesign stuff based on the system they're on. That was always a fun little detail they would mess around with. And then lastly, kind of like, I know you haven't seen the game. Chris, did you watch the Direct at all?
It was very interesting.
Okay, so you did watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Art-wise, like, it felt to me like they kept the cell shading style from Breath of the Wild, but they went into more detail on it. Like, it seemed like it was running a little bit better and was kind of more refined for the lighting. Did you notice anything about the art style or update of it, or any thoughts?
Yeah, it is a little more detailed. You can tell that now they're not really constrained by the previous console, and they've learned so much more. Given how far the Switch's lifetime has come, they've had a lot more time to refine what they know about it. Usually, the end of a console's life is when you get the most beautiful first-party titles. So
it doesn't hurt that they brought in the team from Monolith that does like the Xenoblade games, like the big open worlds they've gotten working on there, especially Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Oh, I didn't know that one.
Well, yeah, because they were involved in the first Breath of the Wild too.
Oh.
So they've learned a lot of little tricks that I'm sure are being brought to bear. All right. Well, do you guys have anything else you want to talk about for Tears of the Kingdom before we move on to the next one?
If Monolith Soft is more involved now, I want to see Link make a mech.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. We're going to work on that one. I bet we could do it.
Use that hand put together thingy to just make a huge, like, wooden robot. I don't know if you can make it move, though.
It's going to be Legend of Minecraft at some point, just building weird mechanical and see what you can do.
The internet is going to have a field day.
Oh, yeah. How long, and I'm just going to say it now, before we see someone try and beat the game with something shaped like a dick?
Don't even just count. Just count on your fingers. As soon as it's open, someone's going to make something like that.
They kind of almost did with that boat with the two motors on the demo. I was like,
people just thinking like, "Oh, this is going to be fun." I wave my magic sword at thee.
Right, because he made a raft with 3 of them. I was like, all right, cool, he made a raft. Oh, we're going to make the middle jut out more. All right, now we're going to take these 2 round motors and put them down here at the bottom like that. I'm like, oh, come on. My 43-year-old man with a 15-year-old brain going like, you made that look like a dick.
At least we're not alone.
Call it the Frankenbeans.
Frankenbeans.
There you go.
Oh, all right. That's a good way to end that one and move on to the next story. All right. So sadly, Nintendo has officially ended the online, at least the store eShop services for the Nintendo 3DS and the Wii U. So pour one out for an incredibly popular handheld, and I still like the Wii U. Oh man, even at the closing, people were giving that system crap. They're like, "Oh, it's closing. Oh, nobody notices anyways." I was like, "Y'all can Y'all suck.
A lot of people had more love for the 3DS.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. I mean, that was more people had it because you get 3DSs for your kids. It's part of why the Switch is so much more popular because, because it's portability, more people in your family have it. You
And
get
because you
one
can
Wii
move your
U.
profile around to another Switch.
That was a pain. I had to do that. Oh, I don't even know if I can do that anymore now. I may be stuck with it. So yeah, those are officially closed. You can still access, like if game companies give away a code, that still works for a few more days. So I know like
Yeah.
Way Forward and a few other ones were doing that.
Yeah, you have April 3rd, and right now WayForward and some other indie developers are just throwing codes out there, kind of like a fire sale saying, take them, take them, take them. We're not selling them.
Yeah, they can't make money off of it anyway, so they might as well just do what they can with them.
Which is, it's kind of like a nice sentiment at the end. It's just saying, we're just going to sit on them, so might as well just give them all out and have people get Treasure Trove, Shovel Knight, get Shantae,
You
get
need to
Mighty
get
Switch
Affordable
Force.
Space Adventure if that company ever starts giving it out, or if you decide to mod your Wii U, which can be done if you look online.
I think I told everybody, at least for the Wii U, that was the ipso facto essential game you should get is Affordable Space Adventures.
The only thing that would have made it better is if it had an online option, because then the three of us could play it together. But it was great having people here.
And then the 3DS for me, it was always like, other than the Phoenix Wright games that you couldn't get anywhere else, the big things there were the Attack of the Friday monsters. Kind of like when they Level 5 and those other groups came together and made these just like new ways of enjoying a game, like Weapon Shop Domase and
what was the Crimson Shroud? I think the D&D
Crimson
style
Shroud,
game. God, it was so fun.
Liberation Maiden. There was a bunch. So I was sick. I kind of sick of like some of people putting out there that don't forget to get your Marios and Zeldas from the eShop. I'm like, can you at least highlight like some of the games that definitely do not have any physical copies out there?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll just get distracted with my 3DS here. We'll just put that up before I start playing it again.
If it makes you feel any better, though, when you watch that YouTuber who bought every single game on both systems,
that was great.
You learn why to adore the Switch so much more because of all the archaicness. Some of it was safeguards, but some of it was so archaic that it was just really frustrating for him, especially the part that I feel was something that needed to be changed, which kind of, I think everything you didn't like about the 3DS and Wii U was fixed for the Switch. And the biggest things were like the DLC being hidden inside the game, where you had to get to a certain part in the game in order to purchase DLC. That's insane.
Yeah. And what was it? They looked at it, the full size of like all the Wii U games were like the equivalent of like 6 Call of Duties.
Yeah, and like then 1.2 terabytes was every single Wii U shop game.
Right. And then the 3DS, everything was less than an actual Call of Duty game. Because, we won't measure anything unless it's weird. That's just how we do it.
But even harder to download on the 3DS.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that's Nintendo ending the life of one of their systems. But Warner Brothers has decided, along with Player First, to surprise shut down Multiverses. They just stated that the game is going to be shutting down within the next 90 days and will come back hopefully early 2024. So you have until June 25th to play it. I think you have until, this week. It's already taken off most of the online stores. But they're claiming it's a beta and they're going to come back with the full game. But this thing had a season pass, it had a DLC store, it had all this extra content, it had pre-order bonuses and stuff like that. I think they were even selling it in stores.
I don't remember the word beta being used until now.
Yeah, me too. It was supposed to be an ongoing, it's, a live service that they just retroactively made into a beta.
Yeah, they just decided, it seems like people don't like it. This wasn't the real version, guys. Bye. Thanks for your money. That's what gets me. The fact that everybody paid so
Mm-hmm.
much, especially what do they call them? The whales that just bought
Yeah.
everything at once to have the full experience. And now they're being told,
Yeah,
no, you didn't pay for the full game. This wasn't the real thing, but thanks for your money.
the situation I gave it to kind of
Mm.
for everybody else to understand how this feels is I told him, like, say you were either 3D printing or otherwise you made a costume, like you created this elaborate costume for a costume ball, and it
Mm-hmm.
was only being held at this one location, and then you go there and it's like, hey, we're renovating for a brand new spot, but your tickets are good for next year. And you're like, what do I do with all my outfit, all my cosmetic upgrades I did to myself? I can't use these on anything else, so it's like you just have to sit and wait now.
Yep. So it's April 4th is when the game's delisted from everybody. And they did state no refunds will be offered to players, as you said. So if you decide you don't want to wait all this time to hopefully have it come back, you are just SOL. You're just out of luck on this one. You're going to have no online play or updates. So if good luck trying to do tournaments or stuff with it because no one's going to be able to update anything. You're only going to have access to in-game training and local matches. And that's it. Nothing else. But in the Warner Brothers frequently asked questions that they put their FAQ, they said that refunds will not be available, quote, as a result of the open beta closing. But they continue to say that all progress and content will carry over to Multiverses when it, and I put hopefully, returns in 2024.
Well, this just tells me that they have to keep within certain parameters. They can't overhaul the game completely because now if they do too much, certain things will no longer be compatible. That
Mm-hmm.
might still be a danger, really.
I almost feel like, as well as what they've been doing, I wish that they had somebody working on, I don't know, on arcade mode as a goodwill gesture, but they didn't even offer a goodwill gesture of any kind. They just said, no, it's done.
Psych!
Because on the other end of things shutting down, today is the day where Avengers has all their content for free
Yep, I need to get
because
that today.
it's not going to update, but multiplayer and single player will work indefinitely until Xbox or PlayStation goes away, and they'll just continue to support the server. But the fact that they were like, "Hey, we're sorry, we're not doing any more updates, but here's a goodwill gesture," and I know it's a death of a goodwill gesture because the game's not being supported anymore, but I
But
really
it's a worthwhile one.
yeah, I really think Multiverses should have given something instead of we're closed, come back next year. They should have said, here's this to keep you busy.
They should have went ahead and unlocked all the characters for everybody while they waited. If you're going to only play it locally, at least have all the fighters, you know,
Yeah, because I
at a
didn't buy
minimum.
any of the other characters, so I was like, I guess I can't play as them, or even maybe not even unlock them. I don't know now.
Yeah, I think that's restricted down to a lot of stuff too. So basically, if you didn't already have it all, sorry, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, the full roster would have been fine. This is something that I mentioned to a lot of people who, talk about this. A lot of the Smash killers, quote unquote,
I
if they,
love that.
have been murdered. You know, Nick All Stars did not have a good story mode, and it
So
didn't have voices for the longest time, even though people
yeah,
clamored for it. And with Multiverses, one of the best things about Smash Brothers is its roster. That's what people come for, and you get it immediately. Aside from a sliver of DLC. So when Multiversus is trying to be Smash, but only giving you a taste of the roster, it's already failed.
yeah, they're trying to nickel and dime it and find out. Oh, well, we can't really do that. Because Nintendo gets away with doing the DLC because you're not just getting that character, you're getting that character for a price that's actually somewhat reasonable, or you have the pass that has all of them. You tend to also get new levels, like a bunch of music in some cases, like all these things added to it that make the game more, not just, hey, I paid this much money and I get to have this character. Now I got to buy the season pass for that character to try and unlock costumes, you know.
Well, yeah, and it was a full game to begin with.
Yeah.
Basically, Warner Brothers and Player First took the Dead or Alive route, where they basically said, "Hey, look at all these characters. You like them? Pay up."
Yep.
I think Multiverses would have been better in the true Smash model, where they simply offered a price up front and gave you the full roster. But of course, that doesn't make money, and microtransactions are still the thing.
And they just want to keep that revenue. They want a perpetual revenue stream, if we want to get, crappy language here.
The live service model. Yeah, that's working.
In the world of gaming, though, if they come back strong with the finished product and characters, I know for a fact that all will be forgiven.
Yeah, I got one of the few times I have absolutely pissed off a group on Twitter, which was great because they were hounding me for a while. Do you guys remember the Crash Team Racing remake that came out?
Oh, sure.
I got it. It was fun. It was really fun. And then they pulled that crap, or Activision pulled it, where after the reviews went out and after the game released, they were like, oh, well, we did an update and now there's an online store and we've made it where it's almost impossible to grind for all this stuff unless you're basically just like a cell phone game having to play it in intervals every day. And I'm like, no, that's asking too much. I was like, the game was fun, but it's crap. And I made a comment saying, like, I don't care what they do. Mario Kart is better than this game. I mean, Mario Kart's just going to be way better with the DLC. And apparently there was a whole group that got furious about this.
Yeah, well, CTR fans are like Smash fans with Melee.
Yeah,
there's going to be a rivalry.
They're coming after you.
Yeah, there's a rivalry there.
I'll still say to this day that game is shit. As long as it has those stupid, I think they did finally shut the store down. If the store is shut down and the game is just back to being what it was, yes, it was fun. I've got it. Maybe I'll try it again. But I'm not going to sit there and grind away at this when I could just go play Mario Kart and the game is there. I'm not as I play it naturally, I unlock carts and other little things that make it fun. I'm not sitting there going like, all right, I'm going to focus today and grind because I've got to save up the money to try and get this while they're dangling. Give us $1.99. You can go ahead and get it. But if you don't get it in time, we're going to put the Fortnite style in there. Like, you've got a day to get this. Heaven forbid you got to do anything else with your life as an adult or child or anyone alive.
What do they call it? FOMO?
Yeah, fear of missing out.
Right.
And that is the most predatory crap I hate. I fall victim to it, which is why I have 2 of the Zelda OLEDs right now. But yeah, it sucks. So if any of the Crash Team Racing people are back out there again, Twitter's a mess, but you can try and come at me again. I don't care.
No, they're busy with Crash Team Rumble now.
Crash Team Rumble, yeah.
Oh, did that come out?
The pre-orders are up for it. The Power Stone lookalike.
Okay. I love Power Stone. That was such a fun game. All right, so this next story I'm still going to mention, even though it kind of became a nothing story after the one after this. But Ubisoft has announced they will not be attending E3 this year. Yeah, they joined Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony in skipping what used to be the gaming event of the year. And then they'll be hosting a Ubisoft Forward event in LA on June 12th. Why does this not matter anymore? Well, the ESA has officially canceled all of E3 2023 like the next day. This was confirmed by 2 sources by IGN. The Entertainment Software Association sent an email out to its organization stating that while E3, quote, remains a beloved event and brand, the 2023 show simply did not garner the sustained interest necessary to execute it in a way that would showcase the size, strength, and impact of our industry. They couldn't get enough money together, I guarantee it. Because everybody was canceling. You didn't have the big 3, and other companies were just hemorrhaging left and right. Because, they already had to skip a recent year. COVID's already made it a nightmare for the 2 years they tried to do it. They tried doing it digitally. They tried a couple years having it where it was open to everybody. They had the whole lovely year where they accidentally released all of the private information of all of the journalists that were there. Nobody was happy about that one. And so the ESA related a public statement from Kyle Marston Kish, the global VP of gaming at ReedPop, it's the company that runs it. They said this was a difficult decision because of all the effort we and our partners put toward making this event happen. But we had to do what's right for the industry and what's right for E3. We appreciate and understand that interested companies wouldn't have playable demos ready, and that resourcing challenges made being at E3 this summer an obstacle they couldn't overcome. For those who did commit to E3 2023, we're sorry we can't put on the showcase you deserve and that you've come to expect from ReedPop's event experiences. And a lot of people wondered if this was going to be the end of E3 total, but they did come out and say that they would work with ESA on future E3 events. Who else is not really surprised this got canceled?
It's bittersweet because I think the trust was lost after that giant leak of information from all the journalists and such. But and I follow at least on Twitter quite a few different PR people, and even some places like Limited Run, Premium Edition Games, some of the ones that rely on making deals to publish these games. And for me, it's a little disappointing that they tried to just make it to the same scale, when I think if they had made it more of like, hey, this will be a closed door event at, say, I don't know, a Hilton or something.
Right.
I think that would have, one, allowed more people to do the networking needed to make the deals that do nothing but benefit us as gamers.
Right.
And two, it would have allowed the thing that usually we got from E3, and that was IGN or some random website saying, we were invited to play so and so newest game behind closed doors. Here's what we can tell you. Here's our impressions.
Right.
Now they still do that, but they just do that when they're ready to do that. Like, they'll just randomly invite a team of people to check out a beta of the game or something like that. So future E3 events makes me hope that they can leave the convention center alone and think smaller. I'm hoping they can do that.
Chris, any thoughts?
It really depends on what they want E3 to be. It has changed so much in the past few years, where video games as a whole have become a whole new thing. They were not just some niche thing for computer and tech nerds. When video games became more of a public and mainstream thing, E3 had to change with it. I remember the days with, the booth babes and the, people stinking of basements all crowding around one game. And, later on we had things like Ubisoft holding dance parties, and just, it changed so much. And now they wanted it to make it a purely social event. I think this was inevitable, and for the next coming years, if they want E3 to continue, they have to think of what they want it to be. And I think it should revert to what it was before all the social hoopla.
Well, I mean,
like Steve said.
Yeah, its original intent was to be a spot where developers could talk with retailers to make those deals and get the games out and decide how many of an order they're going to make and plan ahead and then have a little bit of the extra. Other things have kind of supplanted it now. You've got Comic-Con's got a bigger game focus now where they can still show demos and so forth. You've got, all the different PAX shows. You've got all the stuff Jeff Keighley's doing now, which may be full of marketing, but has been more successful at showing games than E3 has been the past few years, if we're absolutely honest with ourselves, I think.
Yeah,
I think he gets it too, though, because the companies benefit more when they don't have to spend money on making a huge attraction to themselves, when the attraction should be the game. Like he said with the dance parties and the booth babes, not having to send up demo kiosks, not having to have like a giant, I don't know, inflatable Assassin's Creed or Altair.
Oh God,
or
somebody
like
paid
that.
money for Jamie Kennedy one year. I mean, oof.
I know, and the host of every single one of the older Ubisoft conferences was always, I think, what do they call him? Mr. Caffeine? He was the worst.
Oh yeah, no, they were so bad. Devolver Digital had more fun making fun of that by purposely being bad.
That's the only thing I'm going to miss.
Devolver stuff.
And they'll still do that, Chris, because I think that they now can kind of branch out of how they want to show their games, and they've gotten really silly and good with that. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, you can't put E3 alongside like San Diego Comic-Con anymore in terms of spectacles. It's just make it an industry standard now. Just do the things that benefit the company and the developers more, and we will just reap the benefits of being able to see the games or be given a demo to download or something like that. And we don't need to see people from G4 who don't like video games anymore saying like this game's great, 9 out of 10 and stuff like that.
Oh, that's something I didn't think would get brought up. I actually forgot G4 came back and then died again.
Yep. If that wasn't a sign that E3 wasn't going to work, I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know, because originally, the E3 evolved out of CES. It was part of that. It was just like a section of that event, which we still get CES. It still serves its purpose to show off new technologies and to get people interested in buying it. And, like you guys had said, E3 just kind of outgrew what it was meant to do and thought it could just keep going. And they flew too close to the sun, and now they are completely fried. So,
At least this year.
Yeah, I always wanted to go to E3. I was hoping I can go to at least one. I have a feeling that's not going to happen, sadly.
Or there may be a new thing. Maybe you'll go to Summer
Player
Games
First,
Fest.
maybe Player First will have a booth next year so they can show off multiverses.
God. Yeah, let's move on from that. We keep talking about all these developers, making live service games and all this other stuff and the problems that's causing. We finally get a story where a developer listens to those issues and is backing off of making a game a live service for once. Arcane Studios is backtracking on the always on requirement for Redfall, which this I was glad for because I really wanted to play Redfall, but as soon as they said it's always on, I was like, I'm out. I'm not touching it. I did the same thing for Gran Turismo 7. Like, I won't even try it if you have to have that. But game director Harvey Smith stated, quote, we do take complaints about always online with a lot of empathy. We listen, and we have already started work to address this in the future. We have to do some things like encrypt your save games and do a bunch of UI work to support it. And so we are looking into, I'm not supposed to promise anything, but we're looking into and working actively towards fixing that in the future. They're claiming the requirement for always online was so they can get telemetry data for how players are playing, where like if you get stuck on a ladder or something, or a bunch of people get stuck on it, they can know to fix it. But then the argument also came up that there's other companies that do that. They just have you agree to it at the beginning or not, and they still get the data regardless without having to be always online. So I don't know.
So,
I'm just glad to see it reversed for once, but go ahead.
What you're telling me is basically they're just going to ask you if they can have the game be always online or not. Because if that truly is the reason for the always online, then hook me up. I don't want to wait until all I see is why is Arcane Studios and Redfall trending? Oh, it's because this bug isn't fixed yet, and it's a game crashing bug. And they're going to say, well, did you let us look at your game so we could support it? Because it's going to take a while since now we're getting reports about it.
Well, my thing is, if you're going to have the ability to play single player, you shouldn't have to be online all the time. I mean, like Borderlands, you could be online when you wanted to play with people, and it played it just fine, drop in, drop out. But you could also be completely offline and be able to play it without any issue if you're playing by yourself.
I think it would have been better if it was always online, but it did not affect your experience if it went offline. Like, if suddenly you disconnected, it didn't affect your single player experience. I would have rather had that where kind of like how like the Diablo betas worked. You still have to sign into a server even if you're playing locally or even if you're playing couch co-op. So there still is that overarching, if something's wrong, we'll fix it right away.
See, that was the same thing. Diablo 3 tried pulling that, and I refused to buy it. And then when the console versions came out, they were like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to have that requirement to be online. And I bought it like 3 or 4 times.
Except theirs was different. Their excuse was it's for the auction house, which is a bad excuse.
Yeah, but the whole idea of like you can have if you need to have a separate save for online or offline, then do that. Let people have that option because not everybody can be online all the time. Like, great, they could fix a bug faster, but if some of the players can't even play it because they can't be online, the entire time, they have a data cap or a limited internet connection where they are, that game might as well just not even exist. There's entire parts of the country that Diablo 4 is going to be unplayable because of that. I've seen people that have to play off cell phones. It's ridiculous.
So I guess it begs the question because I haven't played these games, but then how do games like Elden Ring and all of the Soulsborne games work when it comes to that? Because online is a big component of their game. So how does it work if you're playing offline?
It plays. You don't have to worry about, like, I play Elden Ring offline all the time with Steam Deck and stuff.
Do you see the warnings? Do you see the warnings? Do you see the places where you can hire help or adversaries? Do you see any of that in the game when it's offline?
No, because you're not online to see that. Like, it's an added bonus for when you're online, but it doesn't restrict the game from not working if you're offline. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. There's still options to play. You just don't have the online capability. That's all.
And I think they went about this the wrong way. So I'm on the side of Arcane should have just made it saying, you have the option, like they said, the asking players if they want to be locked into the always online. But I agree that it shouldn't affect the single player game. Like it should just maybe have a little icon saying you're online and connected to the,
which a lot of games do.
For support, or you're disconnected for right now, but it doesn't do anything to your gameplay. Like, I'm fine with that.
My biggest thing with that is, like, we had the hurricane here a couple years ago and we lost internet for a while. Like, this whole area was trashed and we got power back so I could play games. And that was a wake up call of what worked and what didn't because of that. Like, my PlayStation 4, I didn't realize wasn't set as the home system. So I couldn't play most of my games, like even ones that I owned the disc for. If there was DLC that was attached to it, I wasn't allowed to play it offline. And any game that required an online connection, I might as well just not even had. And, that's not an always thing, but after having to live through that, it was a big change. And we also appreciated the stuff with the Switch because we could play the games, but like if I had the update, but my kids didn't, like it allowed us to update wirelessly to each other from my system, at least for the games.
I do love that feature, yeah.
So even 20 years from now, you go to a convention and you have a Switch and you're like, oh, I've got Smash Brothers, let's play. Oh, I don't have that update. I got it late. You can update to each other and still play it even well after that service is gone. So there should be offline options for these things. Like, I get it if you're making a multiplayer shooter. Fortnite's got an offline mode. I can't even say that. They have a single player offline mode. Yeah, anytime you have anything that says single player, you should be able to play that without being online all the time.
Yeah, I will say I came across that issue with the Switch because I have multiple ones. I have one that is designated the primary console, and then I have the one down here in my den that is not. And the last time I took this one portable, while most of my cartridge games worked, anything that was tied to the expansion pass, such as like the Animal Crossing DLC or the Mario Kart DLC, the game failed to launch for me because it said like you're missing stuff.
Yep.
And there's nothing I could do about it. So the caveat exists, I think, on all three systems. It's just more prevalent, especially with PlayStation and Xbox, because they rely heavily on it on their home consoles to do a lot of stuff through the cloud and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to make an online game, make that requirement known. And I'm not against it happening for some of them. If it's like if it's a multiplayer game, like there's a reason to be connected.
Help them to show off the game, get everybody hyped, and then hide the fact.
Yeah, but as soon as you can say you can play it by yourself, then you shouldn't have to be online. So that's just my feelings about it. Chris, you got any rant on this one too?
Oh no, I tend to agree. There are a lot of great games that just would be better if they had a single player mode in general.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the previous thing, I think that's really what nailed the final nail in the coffin for multiverses, because you had all these amazing properties, all this great content, but they didn't have a single player option, and thus they just didn't seem to think it was necessary.
Yep.
Now they're thinking of adding it because, hey, who knew people want to play a single player game offline? It can make the biggest difference in the world sometimes, just knowing that you're not being watched all the time.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move on from that to a very surprising announcement that popped up, and I was so happy about this one. Edgar Wright, the lovely director of, what was it, Baby Driver and other things, also did Scott Pilgrim versus the World. He's announced on Twitter that Scott Pilgrim, the anime, is going to be coming to Netflix soon. But the kicker is the entire cast of the movie is coming back to voice their characters. All of them. Also, Brian Lee O'Malley, the creator of the books, is teaming up with writer Ben David Grabinski for with Edgar Wright producing. Anna Monoguchi is coming back to make more music for this anime. They did all the music for Scott Pilgrim versus the World, the fighting game, the beat 'em up game, which I love and hope they're sticking to that art style. But I mean, we're getting Michael Cera, Scott Pilgrim, Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Ramona Flowers, down the list. Kieran Culkin's coming back as Wallace
Chris
Wells,
Evans.
Chris
Evans too.
Yeah, Chris Evans is coming back. Kieran Culkin's still one of my favorite parts of that film. He is such a perfectly snarky bastard for everything. Brandon Routh is coming back as Todd Ingram because, chicken's not vegan. Jason Schwartzman, Johnny Simmons. We're getting young Neil. Hopefully he'll become Neil again. Just everyone. Ellen Wong's coming back as Knives Chow. It was just kind of a surprise that they're doing this. And I have a feeling they're going to be doing the same story, but with the anime format, which will probably only get one season because it's Netflix. They're probably already planning on canceling it.
Make sure you binge watch it. Otherwise, you ruin their algorithm.
Yeah. I'm going to just leave it on. I'm going to leave multiple TVs in the house just streaming it all day. Like, I will make this work.
Don't make the same mistake people made with The Sandman. If you watch...
Must you bring that up?
You get better numbers, and they will get a season 2.
They didn't cancel Sandman, did they?
No, they are
God.
getting...
I was like, did I miss something? The horrible news?
They are casting for 5 more characters right now.
I love that show.
They're not calling it season 2. They're calling it a continuation of the story instead.
That's fine. I'm cool with that. I don't care what it is. A season 2 by any other name is still a season 2. So.
As long as we're getting more, that's fine.
We're getting more of that. We're getting Good Omens too. We're eating good.
That's another great show.
We're eating good this year and next year, so we're doing good.
And my last bit of news, I know you guys had some other stuff to talk about as well, but is another show being announced that it's been in the work for decades. They wanted to work on this. They had plans for it kind of coming up back in the late 70s. I think the idea for this show is older than I am. I'm born in 1979, and this was like 77, I think they talked about it. Star Trek Starfleet Academy series has finally been announced and going into production for 2024. The show, like I said, has been made for decades. Executive producers Alex Kurtzman and Noga Landau, I apologize if I mispronounced her name, are making it. This does take place in the future 32nd century, where Star Trek Discovery will be ending coming up soon. So this will probably be involved with Tilly and a lot of them as they're bringing Starfleet Academy back, since warp travel was not possible for that 100-year period. Spoilers for Discovery. Sorry about that. And, they're kind of bringing it back now. Other fun fact, Tawny Newsome, who plays Beckett Mariner on Star Trek Lower Decks, has joined as a writer for the show as well. So that's going to be great because she's actually quite funny for a lot of her stuff. You guys much into Star Trek, or is this just me nerding out here?
I've followed Star Trek. I've watched the movies. I'm mostly a Next Generation person, so I'm anxious to start Picard.
Season 3 is
however,
phenomenal.
I'm in the boat with because I'm both. I'm not necessarily a Trekkie. I'm not necessarily gung ho Star Wars.
You can be like both. There's nothing against the law.
But so to speak, I like to swim to both sides of the pool. It's still fun.
That's fine. They have pictures of Gene Roddenberry and
and George Lucas
like being friends. It was the fans that wanted to get all partitioned, just like video games.
Yeah, the fans ruined it for everybody.
Right. Fans suck. Long live the fans.
But what hurts now for me is just like I don't have the time to. I have to pick my battles because I was like, there used to be like nothing but the Star Trek movies coming out, and now there's such a treasure trove, a bevy of content for both Star Wars and Star Trek that I want to get into this, but I was just like, I'm going to get lost, and I'm going to have to be told what order to watch these in.
Let's say it this way right now. Have you watched any of Picard's 3 seasons?
No.
Okay. Season 1, start there. It's going to have a few stumbling blocks, ends well, watch it. Season 2 starts off strong, has some problems, still watch them, ends well. Season 3, holy crap, it's amazing. I'll just go with that so far.
My brother is a huge Trekkie, so I can usually ask him, what should I watch? What should I avoid? Because I remember when I asked him about all those new shows coming up, he said certain ones were garbage because they disrespected the canon and tried to tell their own stories. And then he said other ones were awesome and to stay with those. So.
All of them have been good. Discovery's really good. I actually have enjoyed every season of that so far. There was a weird thing with the burn, but the actual story around it was still good. Lower Decks is just absolutely hilarious, especially if you love Star Trek. It's so self-referential and ties into a lot of this stuff. And even goes into other like they brought back stuff from Deep Space Nine in that one. It's great. Strange New Worlds has been a great prequel to the original series with nice tie-ins of how they work with that.
What was Prodigy? Was that a game or was that another series?
Prodigy it was a game, but it's also a series. It started off, everyone thought it'd be like a kid's show, but it's more of like young adult, but it ends up being really good. And you have Catherine Janeway coming back for that one. Kate Mulgrew is playing her. So there's tie-ins to all of that, which I'm waiting for the next season of that to come out. Huh?
So there's so much.
It's so good though.
Because
we're eating good in Star Trek right now, and Star Wars.
I recently finished Andor, and I don't. Except for
I need to finish that.
Except for 2 episodes, I didn't get the immense hype that the internet had for it. But
I think that comes down to more of like, how do you like political intrigue?
I'm excited to start and finish the latest season of Mandalorian. So.
That's also been really good. Which I've always been kind of nerdy about both of these things. If I wanted to move the camera and then never get it back in the right place again, to my left you would see a massive Star Trek display. And I'm going to try it anyways. If you look over here to the side, you can see my big Enterprise display that's 6.5 feet long. I've got, the technical design of the ship. Yeah, no, I'm a sci-fi nerd.
Yeah, my brother's wife bought a cameo from I don't know his real name. I keep forgetting it, but basically he had Q speak at his wedding.
John Delancey.
Oh, yeah, John Delancey. John Delancey.
They paid him a cameo to say a huge congratulations and say all those things in his Q character.
I wonder how much it would cost to get him to do a promo for our show. I'm willing to drop that cash.
But speaking of something to watch this weekend, Tetris just came out today. So if you don't have a free trial, or if you already have Apple TV, I'm going to be watching it next week because it's got nothing but good reviews so far. So you can find out the craziness,
I need to try the trial,
the almost true story of how Tetris started. So
that is a crazy story. Have you actually looked into it? Like, that's nuts. Game has was it the Gaming Historian did a really good episode about it.
Yes.
I've read quite a few books that talked about it and what happened there, and I was like, I'd love to hear more. And now that there's a movie, it's gonna be great.
It's video games in the Cold War, and it should not work out as well as it does.
Clearly, it's going to be exaggerated just a tad for the
movie.
Oh,
God, yes.
A lot of it really is more than one could believe. It got crazy.
Just the fight over, like, oh, we got the rights, and they found out, oh, no, wait, we only have the rights for a computer or an arcade machine. We didn't get the console rights or the portable rights, or like everyone playing off of each other. You get the KGB involved. Like, it's amazing that game is ever even out. And just even earlier today, I was playing the original Game Boy Tetris because it's still one of the most addictive and just easy to pick up games I think I've ever played. They
recently just ended another Tetris 99 event. So,
man, that game just can't fail. Well, sometimes it can, but it's gotten better. All right, so the last story you guys had here, Steven, you want to talk about this one?
This has happened in the past, and with tomorrow looming to everybody, for anybody in the U.S., tomorrow is April Fool's Day.
This is going to launch on April Fool's Day.
Anything you read, unless it's coming from Elon Musk, because what he's doing is real.
But real bad.
Than that, a lot of times there's a lot of pranks out there, and you eventually come across one that you're like, I wish this was real. And it's happened in the past, especially with Sega. Sega likes to kind of make things that they're making fun of and then gauge interest, and people are like, I would love that. Last time it was Streets of Rage mixed with Yakuza. They did Streets of Kamurocho, and it came out as a Steam game you could play, and they offered it for free. It was really nice. So this year, they hyped it up yesterday for today. It was kind of planned for April Fools, because yes, they've Sonic the Hedgehog fans. They've been listening to the feedback, and they decided to do what everybody wanted them to do. They killed and murdered Sonic the Hedgehog. The twist is it's in the vein of like your Phoenix Wright, your Danganronpa type visual novel point and click, where now you have to find out a whodunit. It's free on Steam, so it's one of those like, this should be an April Fool's joke, but if it is, it's come true for us. And as of right now, I think Chris has been playing through it and he's loving it.
Yeah, the art direction is really good. As I've often noted, the Sonic fan base, as bizarre as it can be, is alive and well and has done amazing things, not only with the IDW comics, with fan art, but also with the ROM hacking scene. So this game is actually incredibly well put together. Not only is it really polished, but the writing is a lot of fun. So I am impressed, and I'm only, I'd probably say I'm maybe a quarter of the way through, but it's pretty fun and intriguing, and I would definitely say give it a shot if you can.
It is Steam Deck compatible.
Yes, that's what I'll be playing it on tonight. So while I'm finishing the editing of this show tonight, I'll have it downloaded and going. So we'll see how long I play that until I wander back into Power Wash Simulator. You drug dealers, you.
Be strong. Play the visual novel first. Stay away.
Oh, man. That game is so much fun. But yeah, I'm curious to play this one. I saw the pictures and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting fan art. And this is a fan game, as you said, I think you guys said. And, but it's officially licensed by Sega, which I got to give Sega credit. They're so much better at supporting this stuff than Nintendo does. Can you imagine if Nintendo had actually put this kind of support behind the, what was it? another Metroid 2 remake, the AM2R.
Well, no, they basically looked at that, took down all the notes, and then gave it to Mercury Steam to make an official one.
Go ahead.
The one thing that was like a fan made, there is a Metroid 2 remake, which I understand that, but in terms of fan games, I really wish that they would have supported Super Mario Brothers crossover a lot more.
Oh, that was an amazing Newgrounds game.
Funny.
Because what it had to become now just isn't appealing, because he had to change all the characters to original characters, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, they could. I guess it'd take a lot to do like spoof characters. Even then, they could fight it a little bit. All right. Well, I think that's been a pretty good amount for the show tonight. We had a lot of stuff to cover here. But I do want to find out where we can find you guys online to let everybody know. So, Chris, we'll start with you. Where can we find you on the internet?
As soon as you turn this off, I stop existing.
Oh, that's right. We'd have to send in like little commands to ask for stuff.
We clear the cache of Chris.
You can bother Steve at loadingtime.com if necessary.
I need to find some of your art so I can take a look at it. I don't know if I've actually seen any of it other than the picture you sent, which is what people are going to be seeing at the end of this. All right, Steven, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me definitely without a blue check mark at loading_time on Twitter. I'll be lurking around and seeing the April Fool's dumpster fire tomorrow, and maybe just adding my 2 cents depending.
Yep, and if you didn't have a check mark, no one's going to see it anyway, sadly.
I hid it, actually.
Yeah, it'll be hidden. Oh, God, that starts tomorrow. No one's going to know the show came out. Crap. I better get it up tonight. So you can find me at Zenspath, Zenspath, over on Twitter. You used to be able to find us at Zenspath POD, but we still have not got that unlocked. They've literally let actual Nazis back on there, but they have not put our podcast Twitter on there. What have I done so bad? I still don't know.
Pay the $7.
You weren't bad enough. That's the problem.
Pay the $7 a month.
Oh, God. If I have to do that to get that back, I'm just going to let it go. So if you're listening to this podcast, you can watch the video version over at youtube.com/ZenspathCom. And if you're watching it, if you ever want to have this portably to carry with you, you can find the audio version at zenspath.libsyn, Libsyn.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or pretty much anywhere you can download your podcasts at. Leave us a review, a like, share the video, share the show. Like, we need to get this out to more people so that we can actually, bug everybody and they can talk to us, which would be fun. But beyond that, yeah, this has been episode 85 of the Zenspath 4-Button Podcast, and we're out. Peace.
Later.
Have a good day, guys.
Happy April Fool's Day.